Alright, video response to a Professor Anton and, oh dear, it is some sort of H name professor guy. Anyway, they're having a conversation, philosophy stuff, and so it starts off kind of slow, but somewhere in the middle here, they bibble babble about, finding meaning, finding a narrative to describe life, or to understand life, or to see life, or to view life, a context, a viewpoint. So this was kind of strange.
We're in such a scientific, literal-minded culture that the bankruptcy is the bankruptcy of myth-making rather than of truth-telling. That we're dying.
Yeah, you see, I mean, right there, isn't that kind of a funny premise? This scientificism kind of concept. Because the average Bubba, the average Joe, doesn't have anything like that. He has some sort of unreal totem pole kind of God. It's not even the real God anyway. I mean, the Christians aren't even Christian, right? I mean, not even close. I mean, there's Christian capitalists, right? Even though it says 5 times in the Bible about the odds of that camel going through the eye of a needle. And then you have the other Christians with all the do-goodery kind of stuff, who don't really understand that Jesus was basically saying in the Sermon on the Mount, he makes it kind of clear that you're to give up on these technical solutions, on these manipulations, and go back to the garden. Go back to the Garden of Eden, even though it doesn't exist. And yeah, so more of your babies will die. Big deal. But that's pretty much what he's saying. The point being is that they don't have a real religion. They just have this fake religion. I mean, the original stories were just made up anyway. They have broken the original stories for convenience sake alone, taken out the parts they don't like, and created this bastard of a story. I mean, that's not exactly a culture run by science. So, I mean, it seems kind of a slander to say science has been given a shot at running culture. So I think if you gave science the shot, they would grow up and do it better than this.
Of the truth. We're choking of too much truth without having the adequate mythological wrapping in order to help it genuinely make sense. Like I was thinking about, like that, not to try to salvage a literalist theism, but to
yeah, well, that's what he's trying to do. But anyway, he's trying to salvage the idea of having a lie to live by. And that's all this is a discussion about, a lie to live by. He doesn't like the clinical reality. That looks incredibly like no fun at all. And he's just saying, what's some sort of fun story that can make us all feel better about doing our Sisyphus boulder rolling? So let's paint smiley faces on the boulders, or let's write jokes on it. And every time you roll it, the joke kind of gets told in different ways because the boulder turns and twists as you're rolling it. And so one time it's a knock-knock joke, and the next time it's an elephant joke on your mother's ass. Some sort of thing like that. Yeah, so let's just make it fun. That's all these guys are doing. Let's just, it's like miniature golf or something. No, you can't just have a clinical hit the ball into the whole thing. No, you got to hit it into the elephant's ass and have it come out the rhinoceros's horn, and I mean, it's just, let's just make it a cartoon so the kiddies are entertained.
To reintroduce a kind of, a figurative, playful mythology. Like you say, imagine in the beginning, in the proverbial, once upon a time, there was a young God who didn't even know what a God was. And this young God thought it was very powerful, didn't realize how powerful it was, imagined it was more powerful than it was, got utterly disappointed because it wasn't as powerful as
Okay, so it's young and powerful, didn't know it was powerful, but then thought it was more powerful than it really was, and then it was disappointed because it wasn't as powerful as it thought it should be, even though it was young and didn't understand anything anyway. Why does it have to be all that stuff? Why did you just say there was a God? Yeah, you could have just started there. There was a God. And he...
it at first thought, and in its sad disappointment, attempted to kill itself, and yet didn't realize its own eternality, and its suicide attempt failed.
Right, so that's the Big Bang, is his punchline. Sorry to steal that from you, Corey, but come on. Alright, so the Big Bang is God blowing his brains onto the wall of the universe. And, oh, damn, it just didn't work. Because now the universe is trying to rebuild the brain again. So you could almost argue it's like a supercomputer, figures everything out, gets all, and says, oh, this is depressing, I don't like this. And so it tries to kill itself, and it blows its brains out, and its brains fly back in again and recreate intelligence again, so it can say, shit, I don't like it here, and blow its brains out again. And so that's a lot fun. That's really a fun metaphor, really, when I think about it. The idea of perpetual suicide, just an endless hell of the universe having to blow its brains out because it's completely stupid. Yeah, I mean, thanks for that, Corey. That's a great narrative. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Oh, God.
It turned into the Big Bang. And now, the deity, divested of anything resembling the powers that it originally had, was just left to kind of reassemble itself through the odyssey of time, with however that could happen.
Right. So it's almost like he's saying, like, the super brain blows itself up and turns into a lot of little brains that aren't very smart. Yeah, so now all the little brains are roaming around, all the little brains, little tiny brain, little. And they all are trying to somehow reconstruct something of purpose, like the big brain again. Maybe that's the story, yeah. Oh, dear.
You can take a sponge and pulverize it into water, and it slowly comes and reforms itself, however disfigured that might be. But if you imagine, again, if you imagine it as a playful myth,
no,
and there is an after.
No, this is not a serious conversation in the face of what you're looking at. Go look at nature. Go think about the reality of it. All right, go and then talk this way. Go look at the attrition rates. Go look in the ocean, as I said before, and go look what life's doing out there in the dark. The dark places out there. Come on. This isn't a joke, and this is what you're going to come up with. Let's just make up some stupid, metaphorical, fake fantasy story. And if people don't find it appealing just to roll boulders up the hill, yeah, let's just add a little. We can just add some cartoonage. We can describe some other reason why they're rolling the boulders. Try to make up some kind of crap that somehow tries to make it make sense, even though it doesn't. You're admitting it doesn't make sense. That's why you're reaching for a fantasy card. I mean, you don't go to the fantasy pile unless the cards you're holding suck. I mean, that's the reason why you would bother saying, I'll have to go pull a fantasy card out and pop that in my hand, because these cards aren't going to win. And that's basically what you're admitting here. You don't have a winning hand with anything real, so you're just going to concoct some kind of mythical crap and lay it over the thing to make it pretend it's not a pig. It's just lipstick on the pig.
Life. There is a heaven and a hell, and it's what we are right now. We're caught in the heaven and the hell that God created for itself in its own. I think if people were more willing to entertain such thoughts,
Yeah, but I think what you're really trying to say here is we need a sort of ideology that's bigger than just the facts of life. What I mean?
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you can't get any straighter than that, right? The facts suck. It's a crappy hand with the facts. So let's go right to the fantasy pile and pull ourselves out a contrived excuse to keep the slaves chained up. Keep the biosphere chained up to our every whim. Keep playing silly chase games for absolutely no purpose other than to satisfy the Mecca 4 billion year in the creation, Sisyphus slave trade. Just keep it in business. Keep the silly game going, even though you can't come up with a rational reason. Damn. I mean, you really should do better than this, guys. So anyway, we'll jump ahead to somewhere around this 28 mark.
There's just bosons and fermions, and there's just particles, and this is an epiphenomenal illusion. I mean, the incoherences within, the number of people who are geoscientists saying we have to do something about climate change, and other physicists going, well, there really is no we here. There isn't a coherent narrative, there isn't a coherent story provided by science. They could say evolution.
Well, they're not trying to do the story you're doing, right? So I mean, they're not trying to show you where the meaning is, okay? They're just speculating about the mechanics of origin. And they have a lot of coalition around certain principles, okay? I mean, yeah, okay, there's some doubt about cause and effect with some of them, but a lot of them believe in cause and effect. And a lot of them, most scientists, evolution's the deal. These are practical, factual, established premises of well, I'm just saying that you can say that there's debate about the fineries, the very finest of detail in small particle physics and in giant cosmological events, because these are two places we can't get to with our microscopes and our telescopes. And the fact that those things are a little unclear, again, isn't reason for you to say, well, the magic must exist in one of those places we can't see. And that's all you're kind of doing. You're just saying because it's not clear, we can make up anything. And you're going to make up this whole idea that the universe has a personality and it has a mission statement and a want and a desire and all this crap is going on, and that we know there's no evidence of any of that.
But evolution isn't really part of physics.
No, it's not.
Well, see, that that's kind of a, where are you going with that? Of course it is, in a way. It's the particle evolution is what created the elements, and the elements create all the compounds. It's the evolution of, it's just time and mixture that creates compounds. It's not strictly evolution, but it's obviously there's an evolution of probability through time. So as you have more time, the improbable becomes more probable. The more permutations you go through. So in that sense, there's an evolution of possibilities. It's just so damn annoying. Alright, where were we? I don't remember. Let's play some more.
And as a matter of fact, that's another thing David Bohm pointed out, is that, as a matter of fact, he even laid it on the structure of our language, that it's leading to this fragmentation where, there isn't a coherent story coming out of science. As a matter of fact, he has this one book.
Yeah, well, again, it's not the job of science to do this coherent story thing, and all they're trying to do is find the mechanisms of, the material mechanisms. And you want something completely different anyway, right? Science isn't going to find a God for you. It's just not going to happen. And even scientists, even the ones trying to find some kind of God, it's a piece of string or something. I mean, it's not really a really cool God. They're not finding some cool guy in shades, driving a convertible. It's, it's not going to be, if science finds your God, it's going to be a little disappointing. Don't be surprised. Well, anyway, now they're going to go on this language subject, so we won't bother going there. It's not that it's not an interesting subject, but I think we know how long ago mankind really had the bang, in terms of its big bang in terms of knowledge acquisition, and that's when it had a functional language and the capacity to store information outside of its brain, and free time was also important, leisure, time to think and write and contemplate and do all that kind of crap. And we've seen the evolution of our understanding, and it's not there's nothing mystical about it. And we can see the cause and effect nature of it, and we see the hard work of it, and you guys kind of just want to piss on it. I mean, it seems kind of silly that human race goes all this trouble to, detail the world in terms of how it works, dissect it for you, create these tools to do that with, all the effort that went into that, all these scientists, and you just sit there and badmouth them because they don't give you a God. Because they don't hand you here's your description of your, the whole purpose of the human race, when evolution already explains that. It's replicating chemistry. That's all it is. And if you look at the ocean and take the land mammals out of the ocean, you know, what do you got? Sharks and octopuses as the big brains. Barracudas, you know. That's not saying much, is it? For what evolution does. That's 4 billion years of evolution in the ocean, and that's the best it could come up with. Great white shark. Squidward. You know, come on. It's not a great story. You know, and on land, yeah, that was different because, you know, the whole mammal thing happened, and, you know, the meteor wiped out the great white sharks of the land, right? I mean, we had great white sharks on land called dinosaurs. You know, Tyrannosaurus rex is kind of the ultimate great white shark of the land. And yeah, they got killed, and so then the little shrimpers took over, you know, if you did a metaphor for it. So if you killed all the big shit in the ocean, you'd be left with the crustaceans. And so yeah, the crustaceans would start building Empire State Buildings and think they're so magnificent that they need to invent a god to justify themselves. I mean, you're just kind of like, you remind me of the Simpsons episode, you know, the sea monkeys, you know, they build themselves, they do the same routine, you know, you have to have a god, you have to have it. You can't live without this notion of purpose, because the game on its face is too ugly. You can't sell it on its face, because on its face it is just so tragic. You know, you get to hold beauty and it crumbles in your hand, and then you have to watch it do that. You know, and you know, life is rude to our sensibilities. It's just plain rude, and you know, you're just too attached to it to let it go. So you're just going to keep trying to reinvent this idea of a bigger mission statement than replicating molecule. But it's replicating molecule. That's the scientific truth. And the simple truth is you don't like the truth, and so you just keep reaching for the fantasy card. Gotcha. That's what you're doing. That's my scientific evaluation of what you're doing. And it's not fair to the truth. Probably enough. Hot in here.